Do you ever catch yourself picking at your skin or pulling at your hair or chewing your nails and think, why can I not stop this? What is wrong with me? Or maybe you're a parent watching your child rub or pick or pull until the skin, hair, or nails are damaged and you feel completely helpless. Well, if this hits close to home or if it feels a little bit raw to hear, then maybe this episode is especially for you. And no, there's nothing wrong with you, your child. Your nervous system just learned the wrong habit and it can learn supportive habits just the same. We'll get into that later, but first, allow me to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Nicole Gentile from Elemental Healing Solutions. I've spent about 15 years in dermatology, treating skin, hair, and nail conditions every single day. I've witnessed incredible medical advances, but there was and continues to be a painful pattern that keeps recurring, maybe even more than I've ever seen in the past when I first started out in medicine. Patients come in with scabs, with scars, infections, with thickened mounds of skin, red or even dark spots that stain the skin. They come in with hair loss and nail changes, and on the surface, it looks like a skin problem, hence the dermatology visit. But underneath, it's really about the nervous system, about stress, anxiety, shame, and patterns of coping that have become automatic and very hard to break. So I also know this from the inside. Ever since childhood, I have also lived with skin picking, also called excoriation disorder, and something that we call acne excoriae, which basically means acne that has been picked and picked until the picking becomes a bigger problem than the acne itself. It's a little clinical pearl here is that it actually fuels more inflammation and acne. And even knowing this through nearly 2 decades in my profession, I still sometimes dissociate into this destructive pattern that represents this condition. So I am going to explain more about what these conditions are in plain language, why they happen, and how habit reversal therapy has helped me and many of my clients get out of the stress and shame spiral and into actual change. And we're going to do that with no judgment because guess what? I'm right there with you. So this video, I need to be clear, is for education and support. It's not medical advice or a substitute for care with your own clinician, but my hope is that it gives you language, it gives you understanding and a path forward. And one that I'm really happy and honored to walk with you on because, like I said, you are not alone in this. So let us start with what these behaviors actually are. What are BFRBs, or body focused repetitive behaviors, and what is excoriation disorder? Well, BFRBs are repetitive actions directed at the body. Things like hair pulling, skin picking, nail biting, cuticle chewing, or lip or cheek biting, or even just rubbing or scratching the same area over and over. These behaviors often start as really small habits and they gradually become these automatic patterns that are very hard to stop. Excoriation disorder, sometimes called skin picking disorder or dermatillomania, is when repetitive picking at the skin leads to actual damage. That can mean open areas, sores, scabs, scars, infections, and a lot of time spent and lost picking. It's now classified in the OCD, obsessive compulsive and related disorder section of the DSM because it often has a repetitive compulsive quality and is tightly linked to urges and tension. Now, acne excoriae, which I mentioned earlier, is when there is some acne or just clogged pores to begin with, but the real damage comes from picking and squeezing and scratching. And sometimes the original acne in truth was very mild, but the brain just locks on to every bump or textural irregularity as something that has to be fixed or smoothed out. And then the picking takes over. So if you live with this, you know the cycle. You see something in the mirror or you feel something, you lean in a little closer and you tell yourself you will only touch one spot. And then 20 or 40 minutes later, where's the time gone? You look up and your skin is red, it's raw, or even bleeding. And the next day you feel ashamed, you spend time trying to cover it, and the whole process just feeds back into more stress, more picking, and even more inflammation and acne. So let's talk about what is going on physiologically in simple terms. So, how these behaviors connect to the nervous system. Well, many people assume that this is just a lack of willpower, and I see that a lot. No, it's not that simple. These behaviors are deeply tied into how the nervous system manages stress and emotion and sensation, perception. So, when you feel anxiety, shame, fear, boredom, or emotional overload, your body's flooded with tension and energy. For some people, that tension goes outward. They yell, they cry, they pace, or they snap. For others, it goes inward and it becomes kind of a controlled injury or a controlled sensation. And the brain learns, if I pick this spot or if I pull this hair or scratch this area, I get a small moment of relief. I feel focused instead of scattered, and I feel something that I can actually control. Now, a systematic review by Barber and colleagues in 2025 looked at skin picking disorder and found that people with this condition consistently had more difficulty regulating emotions compared to people without it, okay? So we can see where there's room for negative coping mechanisms to take root and grow. Another study by Klosowska, I hope I said that right, and colleagues in 2024 found that people that pick their skin tend to have differences in how they actually sense internal body signals, perception, like tension or discomfort, and that this connects to emotion regulation strategies. So translated into everyday language, it means this. Your brain and your body might be wired to feel emotions and physical tension more intensely, and then they have a harder time calming down. So the picking, the pulling, or rubbing is your nervous system's attempt to regulate itself. It's not crazy, and it's not evidence that you are broken. It's an adaptation that has gotten stuck on repeat, and it has side effects on the skin, hair, and nails. So from the outside, it looks like just stop, right? But from the inside, it feels like this loop that goes urge, tension, behavior, brief relief, then shame and more tension over and over. Think about it. Could you tell a smoker or an alcoholic to just stop? No. This is similar to those dopamine-driven addictive pathways. Now, I want to share a bit about my own experience because I think it's important that you know that I am not speaking about this only as a clinician. I'm also someone who has had to walk this road. I think you could even see evidence right about here, the stress that I had this last week, okay? I have dealt with skin picking and acne excoriae since I was younger. I was the girl who knew every pore on her face, who could not leave a bump alone, and who felt deep shame walking into bright light or social situations after a picking episode. I still do. That shame did not stop the behavior, and sometimes it still doesn't. In fact, it often made it worse because I felt like that I had already messed up. So what was the point in even trying? Now, working in dermatology for years, I saw my own patterns reflected back at me in my patients. Okay, I could really feel this in my patients. Kids, teens, adults, people of all genders, people who were smart and successful, funny and kind, beautiful, and yet felt completely out of control with this one behavior. I would treat the infection, prescribe creams, perform procedures, but I could feel how incomplete that was. I could fix the wound, but not the pattern or the deeper wound. So that feeling of helplessness is a big part of why I started digging deeper into behavioral therapies like habit reversal therapy and inference-based cognitive behavioral approaches. I wanted tools that actually address the nervous system, the emotions, and the habits, not just the surface of the skin, where we're limited from dermatology. So what is habit reversal therapy? Habit reversal therapy, or HRT, is a structured behavioral treatment developed in the 1970s by Azrin and Nunn. In their original work, they looked at things like tics and nervous habits, and they found that when you help people become very aware of the urge and the early steps of the habit, and then teach them an opposite, incompatible response, symptoms can decrease dramatically. Since then, Many studies have refined and tested HRT for body-focused repetitive behaviors like hair pulling and skin picking in both adults and children. For example, a randomized trial by Woods and colleagues going back to 2006 combined acceptance commitment therapy, which is great, with habit reversal training for adults with hair pulling. And they found significant reductions in symptoms compared to the waitlist group. A study by Rahman and colleagues in 2017 tested HRT for children and teens with trichotillomania, and again found that kids who did HRT had greater improvement compared with treatment as usual, our standard treatment. So more recent work in 2022 has shown that HRT-based self-help and online formats can also reduce BFRBs for many people. Okay, so there are resources out there and they could be self-directed too. So all of that is so interesting, but what does it actually look like in practice for you or your child? So the core pieces of habit reversal therapy in plain language. There are a few main steps that I use when I am doing habit reversal therapy style work in a coaching context. First, as with any HRT training, is awareness training. Many BFRBs are automatic. By the time you notice that you're picking, you're already mid-episode. Many of us dissociate. So we slow the whole process down together. We map out where and when these episodes tend to happen. Is it on the couch? Is it scrolling your phone? In the bathroom mirror? Is it after a shower? Lying in bed? Driving? We look at what your hands are doing, what your eyes are doing, and what your body feels like before it starts. We're teaching your brain to catch the first 2 or 3 seconds of the chain, not the last 30 minutes when the damage has been done. So second is understanding the function. What is this behavior doing for your nervous system? Is it bringing relief, focus, numbness, a feeling of control when everything else feels chaotic? Often we discover that the behavior is trying to solve a problem that has nothing to do with your skin or hair. It's an innocent bystander. It's just trying to regulate emotion or quiet self-critical thoughts or even cope with boredom or overstimulation. Third is competing response training. So this is where we choose a simple, safe movement that is physically incompatible with the picking or pulling. For example, gently making a fist, pressing your hands into your thighs, squeezing a stress ball, or crossing your arms and pressing your palms into your upper arms. For me, it's putting on an LED face mask, so I can't touch my face. The key is that it uses the same muscles or movements that would usually go into picking, but in a different way. So when the urge shows up, you practice the competing response for a short period, usually at least 1 minute or until the urge just drops, because guess what? It does if you can compete with something else for long enough. Fourth is building a supportive environment. We adjust things like mirrors, lighting, where you sit, what you do with your hands while you watch TV, and what tools are lying around. This is not about blame. It's about making the desired behavior easier, and then the old behavior a little less convenient or easily accessible. And then finally, we bring in cognitive and nervous system work. We explore the beliefs that show up like, I will never stop, no matter how hard I try, or my skin is disgusting, or I've ruined everything, right? Because we have those thoughts. Instead, we work on self-compassion, realistic thinking, and nervous system regulation tools like breathing, grounding, and pacing your day so that you are not permanently operating at a 9 out of 10 stress level like so many of us are. So where ICBT fits in. Inference-based cognitive behavioral therapy, or ICBT, is a form of CBT that is often used for obsessive compulsive patterns. It looks at how your mind gets pulled into a story or an imagined threat and then acts as if that threat is true. For example, if I leave this bump alone, people will think I am dirty or ugly, or if I do not fix this, something bad will happen, or someone's going to notice it. In my work, I weave in principles from ICBT to help you see where your mind is making these leaps and where old stories about your body or your worth are driving the urge. And then how to step back from those stories instead of obeying them. I also give you medically informed context to basically disprove these stories. And what clients can expect in a habit reversal session with me is that if you were to sit down with me for a habit reversal coaching session through elemental healing solutions, it would feel something like this. Okay, so just imagine. And imagine this for yourself too. So you could walk yourself through a session self-guided. So we'd start with your story, not just I pick or my child pulls hair, but when it started, what was going on in your life, what have you already tried, and how it feels in your body and emotionally before, during, and after an episode. Those 3 parts are each individually important. Next, we would map out the behavior. Like I said before, we would talk about specific times this week, almost like replaying a scene. Where were you? What time of day? What were you thinking about at the time? Who else was around? What were your hands doing? Your posture, your breathing? This empowers you instead of shaming you. And we know that shame fuels so much of this. And the more detail that we have, the more entry points we have for change and solutions. And then we would design at least one competing response together and then practice it in session. We might role play you feeling an urge and then trying the new response, noticing what it feels like. We would talk about where you are most likely to need it. We keep it very practical, very real life. And we will also talk about your nervous system, other influencing factors. How are you sleeping? Are you constantly overworked and undersupported? What in your schedule, relationships, or inner dialogue is keeping you in a stress state and therefore making urges more intense? We might add tools like micro breaks, body-based regulation skills, or small shifts in routines to reduce the overall impact on your system. And over time, we refine. We notice what helps, what does not, and we adjust. We celebrate small wins, like one less episode a week, which is a gain, or catching the urge a few seconds earlier than before. And we normalize relapse because it's going to happen. It's part of learning, and it is not a sign of failure. I have to stress that. So how I apply this to myself, right? Okay, because we're personal here. Everything's on the table. Well, in my own life, these same tools have helped me enormously. Do I still pick sometimes? Yes. The difference now is that I understand what's happening. I can feel the urge rise up. I know when I'm going to do it. And I say, oh, my nervous system is overwhelmed right now, instead of I am disgusting and hopeless and I need to tear myself apart right now in front of a mirror. I can use my competing responses and I can slow myself down. I can step away from a mirror, take a breath, text a friend, or redirect my hands to something else. And when I do slip, I now have the confidence of many, many times where I've been able to interrupt the pattern to know that I can be successful. And that lived experience makes it easier to come back to my tools instead of spiraling. Now, I want to speak directly to the parents and caregivers who are watching. So if you're here because your child is picking, pulling, biting, rubbing, or scratching, and you're scared, you're sad, you feel helpless or frustrated, I see you. You love your child, and when you see their skin raw or their hair thinning or their nails destroyed, it's natural to want to stop it by any way you can. But some very understandable parenting strategies can actually increase the behavior, and some small shifts can instead make a big difference. So let's talk about what tends to backfire, because so much good intention does tend to backfire on us. So first, repeated commands like stop that, or why are you doing this again, or you're gonna scar your face, said with fear or anger out of protection, can raise your child's anxiety. Their nervous system reads your tone and your facial expression as danger. So this extra surge of stress can make them have the urge to pick or pull even stronger. Okay, it's kind of counteractive. You think you're helping, you want to help, you want to catch them, right, for themselves. But then it just makes it worse, because these comments like, you're too old for this, you look awful when you do that, or do you want people to stare at you? can deepen feelings of defectiveness or disgust or shame, which are already common in kids with BFRBs to begin with. Shame is like gasoline on the fire of these behaviors. Now, third, physically slapping the hand away, which I've seen, staring at them while they do it, or making it a power struggle, can turn the behavior into a secret or into a way of expressing distress when they don't feel heard. So what can you do instead? Let's redirect these intentions, right? So here are some supportive approaches that I sometimes recommend to families. We can first start by naming the behavior gently and neutrally, especially for younger kids. Something like, hey, I notice your fingers are on your skin again. Is your body feeling tense right now? Or, I see your hand is in your hair. How is your nervous system doing at this moment? Or just, how are you feeling, right? Let's bring the attention towards awareness and not blame, okay? Second, we want to focus on regulation before correction. So if you see picking or pulling, ask, what's happening inside of you right now? Are you bored? Are you worried? Overwhelmed? Offer some co-regulation. Sit next to them. Slow your own breathing. Maybe offer a hug, or if they like touch, or simply just calm your own presence so they can feel this too. Third, you want to offer tools and not punishment. Fidget toys, textured fabric, stress balls, drawing tools. You might say something like, when your fingers want to be busy, let's give them something safe to do. For mirror-based picking, you can help by limiting extra mirrors, adjusting lighting, or setting up a time-limited routine for skincare so they're not alone in the bathroom getting lost in picking. Fourth, you really want to validate their experience. This is really important and often overlooked. I know you're not doing this on purpose to upset me. I know that this is hard for you to control. I am on your team and we will figure this out together. That sense of being supported reduces the shame that feeds this cycle. Fifth, you want to collaborate on a plan. You're working together, right? You just told them you're on the same team, especially with teens. So ask what would feel helpful instead of imposing rules. Maybe they want a code word you can say when you notice them picking. Pineapple, okay? So they feel reminded but not exposed. Maybe they prefer to check in with you at certain times of the day about how their urges have been. And this is a great time to communicate too, okay? This is a healthy habit for the both of you. And if you're concerned that the behavior is escalating or that this is linked to trauma, depression, or self-harm thoughts, reaching out to a therapist or a medical professional with experience in BFRBs and emotional regulation can be very helpful. But try to frame it with your child as getting extra tools for the whole family's nervous system, not as fixing something bad, broken, or wrong about them, okay? It's for everybody to heal together. After years of working in dermatology and feeling that ache of, I wish there was more I could do, and after walking through my own journey with excoriation disorder and acne excoriae, I decided to bring habit reversal therapy-based coaching into my elemental healing solutions practice. I do this because I have seen the research support it. Studies across decades from the 1970s and moving through to recent work in the field of psychodermatology keep showing that behavioral approaches, specifically like HRT, sometimes combined with cognitive work or acceptance strategies, can significantly reduce body-focused repetitive behaviors and improve quality of life for many people. I also do it because I know what it feels like to sit in that dermatology exam room with your sleeves pulled down in the summertime, or your hair carefully arranged to cover patches, or your makeup layered thicker and thicker, hoping nobody will notice the peeling patches in the various stages of healing. I know the courage that it takes to even say the words, I cannot stop picking out loud, or, yeah, I pick. In my work, I bring together my dermatology background, my training in behavioral and cognitive approaches, and my lived experience. We talk about the skin, the nervous system, the brain, the beliefs, and the environment. We make a plan that is grounded in evidence but personalized to you. It has to be personalized. That's the only way. It's no one size fits all. Now, one message that I really want to leave you with is this. I need you to understand that relapse is part of the process. Even if you're expecting a perfect straight line from problem to cured, you are going to feel defeated very, very quickly. So instead, I like to think of it as building a new relationship with your nervous system and your body. We have to kind of get in there and untangle that, right? So you're going to have days where you use your tools and you feel proud and accomplished. You will have days where you slip back into old patterns and you'll wonder if you have any traction. But the success is not in never slipping. It's instead of noticing sooner, judging less harshly, and coming back to your plan more quickly and kindly. It's called resilience. Over time, this actually rewires the brain and you build new neural pathways for how you respond to stress, shame, boredom, or anxiety. You become someone who has urges and has tools, not someone who is defined by the behavior. So if you're listening to this and thinking, this is me or this is my child, I want you to know that there is nothing wrong with you. Your brain and your nervous system have been trying to protect you. Okay, that's where this all started. That's root cause. And they manage more than you're really resourced for. So you deserve the tools, understanding, and support, and not judgment. So if you'd like to explore whether working together might help you, you're welcome to reach out and schedule a brief discovery call with me through Elemental Healing Solutions. And on that call, you can share a bit about your story or your child's story, and we can talk about what you're hoping for. And I can let you know honestly whether my style of habit reversal and nervous system focused coaching feels like a good fit, or if another type of support might serve you better. Okay? There's no pressure here and no hard sell, just a human conversation about whether I can be of service to you or your family, and then maybe what other types of service might be recommended. So thank you for spending this time with me. And if this episode was helpful, please consider sharing it with someone who quietly struggles with these patterns. Sometimes just hearing that there's a name for what you live with and that there are real tools and people who understand, okay? Sometimes that's the first step towards healing. So let's take a breath. We'll offer ourselves a little bit of kindness and grace right now. And then I'll see you in the next video. And I plan to share more specifics about BFRBs and what we can do to support ourselves in the future. Take care.